Okay, hello. I'm glad you all could make it out today. Peter had a previous obligation. His wife had knee surgery, so he is not able to join us today, but he will be back tomorrow. He did send me screenshots of all the work that was submitted by around 11 a.m. this morning. If you submitted anything after 11 a.m. and you want it reviewed during our live session right now, you can just send it to me via Slack and I'll go ahead and get that up. If not, it'll just get reviewed tomorrow. So I see we have two students in the room and I want to go through their projects first. So let's go ahead and start that. So again, because they're screenshots, they're going to look a little, let me turn off my email. I'm sorry. All right. Because they're screenshots, they are going to look a little bit blurry, and obviously they're not that way because most of them are vector. But let's go ahead and start with Samantha's. And so the first thing that I noticed is if there's any possible way that you could remove the handle in the template, I think it would just look so much better as just a T box without the handle. Obviously, you know, I mean, that's totally up to you, but, you know, I was just an initial observation. You and another student who both did T, that the box naturally looks like a T box. So it could be kind of cool if the handle could be removed. The other observation that, and feel free to unmute yourself, Samantha, so we can talk if you want, that I noticed is that everything has a very center alignment. So I don't know how much, but I'd like you to go back and just study a little bit on the rule of thirds. And with the rule of thirds, basically, I personally try to use, and I think the shape of your box would look better if you use the golden ratio grid, the phi grid. But the rule of thirds basically says that things are much more visually interesting when they line up on these grid lines. And so there's nothing wrong necessarily with a center alignment, but it just feels very heavy in the middle. And I have all this negative space, white space on the sides. So it might be more visually interesting if the logo stayed, for example, in the center, but then the teacup was over here. And maybe, you know, you could just work with that placement a little bit more. In terms of this patterning, I really like it on the top and the side flaps, but on the background here, I find it to be make it a little busy and distracting and detract away from the actual visual imagery. So also, I would go in and Photoshop to clean out that, make that a knockout as you're working.
Makes sense.
Okay. So, so yeah, other than that, that looks good. I like that you included the match proof, because obviously in a lot of packaging design, it's not economical to, you know, print that and have it cut off. So they put it on a flap where it can be hidden. But even with the match proof, when you look at most match proofs, they're going to show you the CMYK and they're going to show you 100%, 50%, and so forth. And then they're going to show you all the spot colors. And because you do have photography in here, it logically would include the CMYK as well. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right. But that's a nice little touch that you added. So this is this the steeping instructions, and this is the...
It's actually maple sugar candy, but the most frequent way to consume maple sugar candy is to put it in tea and coffee and stuff like that. So I grew up on it, so you know.
Oh, nice. Oh, I have a coworker who goes up to New York a couple times a year. He always brings us back maple butter, and so I was like, you know, get me a quart, get me what's the biggest size you can get me.
So good.
It is good. Okay, so so then
the handle was bothering me too, because it just is so flat, and I was like, I don't know what to do with that. So
the maple cookie?
No, the handle on the box.
Oh, yeah.
I don't like the handles on any of the boxes. They just ended up so flat, And
So you think you can go in and just remove it? I
I
think it would
think
be
I can
better.
take them. I think I can take them out.
Yeah. All right. So, yeah, so I would just make some of those changes and, try a more interesting composition. It's okay if like the cup overlaps this. And is this the candy piece of the candy?
Yes.
Okay. I wonder, if maybe like a little more juxtaposition in the angle would be more visually interesting.
It
So right
was
now,
it was it was in the image itself when I trimmed it out, so I just left it.
yeah, maybe, no, I'm saying maybe you can just physically go in and rotate it.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, this is looking good. The colors are harmonious. They definitely evoke the correct color connotations. Um, but yeah, like I said, I would remove the patterning here. Certainly, like if you had more of a visual background, that might work, like a table or something, so it doesn't look like it's just floating.
Yeah.
That's something you can consider. In terms of your other ones, this one, the color scheme isn't working as much for me. The pink pastel seems, even though it harmonizes with the orange individually, it seems to clash collectively. So this would probably be, this one is definitely your strongest one. And the colors, like I said, they have that fall feel to them, and they just really evoke that feeling of maple.
Yeah.
In terms of this one, the striping is like, it's just kind of, it's too bold. So if it was like really subtle, like really pale green, and then like a really like white pale green, it might have worked better, but it doesn't add anything in terms of design aesthetics to your piece. The patterning that you had here is definitely more visually interesting. So I would remove this altogether. And then I have one more tip for you. When I was in college, we had this thing called an E-rule. And most students don't even know what this is anymore. Most of my colleagues don't even know what this is anymore because I'm really old school. But basically, this is a clear ruler. And when you find something that you like, you can put the ruler on top and you can measure it. It measures in inches, points, and picas. And then you get this middle part here also measures leading. So then when you look at something, you're like, okay, the font size was 12. What was the leading size? And leading is the space in between lines.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just helps you really develop an eye. And then they have these capital E's, so you can measure E's really quickly for, standard sizes. So just as I look at this panel, this just looks really large and really bold. And when you put things in like bold font, it can almost feel like it's screaming at you. So, and plus it detracts from the logo font because it's the same. So you don't feel like you have to fill space. It's okay to have white space. White space makes the star of the show shine. So you could obviously come in and put other things such as food declarations here. So I just went to like Seek logo. They have vector logos that as long as you say you're not going to use them illegally, you can download them. And so maybe you want like the fair trade logo or, something of that nature. So you could always use that to add more declarations. You could also potentially, let me think for a minute. I had it in my mind, sorry. Mine's going a mile a minute.
Mine too. I'm just waiting for the dog to go off because she will at any minute.
What I was going to say is you could also include contact information. So like you see that on a lot of products, like, the manufacturer information. So, so something like that could be used instead of just making something bigger.
Okay, that makes sense.
All right. So, but great job. you got your 3 designs all done, so you're in good shape, but this is definitely your strongest one. Do you have any other questions for me?
I had posted them on Facebook and just to see, what other potential consumers would think of them. And actually, most people like the stripes on the box. So it was just interesting to hear that you liked this one.
You know, why do they like the stripes?
A lot of people said it drew their eye in more. It made the box seem more. It made it stand out. It was different.
So the issue that I'm having with this one, once I see it all mocked up, is that these 2 elements compete for attention because they have a very similar visual weight.
Right.
So I would prefer this flap, not have anything. Plus the flaps can easily get damaged
Right.
when, consumers open it and so forth. So this to me feels like it should be more here. This logo feels like it's a little too large. It's filling the space a little too much, provide a little bit more breathing space, and that'll reduce the visual tension. But I just
I just made it really big because I've been having an issue with the logo not standing out enough. So I was like, I'll just make it really big. Then they'll see it really easily.
Okay, well, I'll add a little bit more white space around the barcode too.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's about it. And the barcode is typically on the bottom flap. So.
I have a lot of boxes that say otherwise, but okay.
So you can just make a decision on that. So. I mean,
all right.
Yeah, but good job. All right. So next person in the room is Andrew.
Hello.
Hi, how are you today?
I'm doing good. A little tired, but I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Yeah, I'm okay, So I'm just So, what can you say, like all right.
Yeah, I only had one done. I only had last night to work on this, so I just wanted to get some input on what I had so far.
So I think so far you really have a strong color scheme going on, right? This class is color theory. So like the gold is really coming alive. Like this feels like gold to me, not yellow. So you've done that, exceptionally well. I'm wondering once it gets flapped. Okay, so that will be visible.
For what, sorry?
I was just trying to ascertain if this was going to be visible.
Oh, okay.
So, I like this cutout, evoking the feeling of the pyramids.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering now if this line is too thin. As I see it against the black, it feels like it needs a little bit more weight.
Okay.
And then I think that, you have a lot of decorative typefaces, right? And they work well for the labels. But for all of the other stuff, I would use just a basic font. And
okay.
that will really make these more distinct. So,
Gotcha.
so find a typeface that complements with it, but it's, simple. And I think, especially for like these side panels and stuff like that, and the subhead, and that'll be much better. Now coming over to this panel, I think you just need to work on your Gestalt grouping. And so basically, if I was to just scan this up and down, I would not know if this label went to this one or this one immediately. So just by adding a little bit more space in between the different groups, just a little, then the eye is going to be able to separate the instruction with the appropriate icon.
Makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, right now I just have them all evenly spaced, so
yeah.
I'll group them up.
So that's really it. It looks excellent. You should be very pleased.
Thank you. And I didn't know removing the handle was an option because I really did not like that handle.
Well, I never asked Peter, but go ahead, and if he says anything, I'll let him know. I said I told him to do that.
Okay, cool. Because yeah, I did not like. I messed with it for so long, and it's like this just does not look good.
And the angle I can tell just doesn't match up because
no.
So yeah, by all means,
Perfect.
yeah.
I too am on the death to handles, so.
All right, well, I'm just gonna go ahead and review the other students' work. You guys were the only ones in the room. If you wanna stick around, that's fine. If not, feel free to leave and so that you can continue finishing up your project for the week.
Yeah, I'm gonna get to work. But thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Have a great day.
Right, thank you. You too.
All right, so all right, I only had 2 submissions in my section, so let me go ahead and finish my section. So the next one was Nicole's. And so hers is very clearly T. So again, I would make the same recommendation of removing this handle if possible. Earlier on, I kind of indicated that I would like to see this gray go away because the color contrast with the purple wasn't working quite as effectively. And I see that you have some other really beautiful colors that harmonize really well. So I think it'd be kind of, I would definitely recommend that you explore maybe these leaves in green and maybe this second border in yellow. You know, possibly get rid of the gray altogether. This gray could be used for text. But yeah, so then ask yourself, is white really the meditative relaxation color that you're going for? When you think of relaxation, things of that nature, you'll often think of like soft blues and soft purples. Those are the colors that really make you think of that meditative quality. So possibly you would want to consider incorporating that instead of the white. You can also include, you know, some imagery that might make this more visually interesting. Let's see, for example, you guys all have your Adobe stock. Let me move this bar back over in the way. And you know, here you can see, you know, that there's just some images that maybe would just feel a little bit more authentic. And might visually just stand out a little bit more. So that's definitely something to consider, right? Maybe you want like the cinnamon sticks. And this one gives you a lot of variety for only one download. Well, just depends what you want, right? So yeah, anyway, I hope that kind of helps you point this in just a slightly further direction. That, you know, when you look at teas, they either often contain some type of illustration, you know, that talks about the brand story, or they contain some type of like photography, and that photography is usually, you know, quite simple and bold. So, you know, and I think it'd be just a nice complement to what you already have going on. So in terms of the other information, you may want to, you know, just include, instead of putting your logo here, you could put contact information. You could also put how long to steep to enjoy, you know. You can, you know, like I said, include any of those seals, non-GMO, whatever, that type of stuff. So you don't have to, like, you know, just feel like you have to fill it up there. Instead of, you know, the patterning looks nice, but if you don't want the pattern on both sides, you could include something about your brand story, how the tea was developed, and so forth. All right. So really just the main thing is just you switched color flaps and change the patterning. So right now I'm really liking this motif pattern. I feel it's very strong. I see the, you know, diamond echoed, but this to me just looks more visually interesting. So I'm not really seeing too much like variety here. They kind of just feel like, you know, 3. So yeah, just experiment a little bit further, you know, to actually make 3 mock-ups I think you only have to mock up one of them, but the three. So like, really not a whole lot changes between them. So that would just be my recommendation there. So I hope that's helpful. Let's jump back over to Peter's classes, and we'll start with Daniel's. So he's got Shanghai cookie. So so this imagery that you have, I would include it on the front because you want to entice the viewer and the consumer and get them to buy. So, show them the imagery up front. This logo just feels very large. Nothing wrong with a large logo, but it's really is taking up the entire front package. So I would, modify that. And then this has a very, let me think, I'm trying to think of which artist. My mind went to Paul Klee, but that's not who I'm thinking of. I'm thinking probably more Matisse, right? It has like that cutout feel to it. But then when I come here to the side panel, everything's like perfect geometric. So these two elements are not complementing each other. If this had more of a, everything wasn't perfect, right? Like how the circle is not perfect, these radiating lines just kind of aren't perfect. And even, the roof lines, kind of aren't perfectly symmetrical either. I think that might work better. So either like work on your logo, really get it symmetrical and keep this motif, or work on making this motif, not so precise in geometry. I would also consider, like one pattern per box. So here now we have this swirling pattern versus this really like Japanese lattice work. So the two aren't really meshing well with each other. So I would just keep with the one, and it's certainly perfectly fine to contrast it with color if that's what you want to do. But when you look at a lot of packaging, like the color doesn't change just because the flap changes. You know what I mean? So the color could certainly be the same, throughout the whole box, but maybe just the side panels have some of that patterning. So that would be like my first recommendation, a little more breathing space around the nutrition label, a little more white space and more white space around the barcode. So just start there. Let's see where you go. All right, so this is David's, and he's got the mate tea. So just kind of the same recommendation, like don't be afraid of white space. White space is your friend. So when I look at this, I would scale the logo down, maybe about 80%. So you just have a little bit more clearing space, more margin space on either side. When an element is too big and it comes too close to the edge, it causes visual tension. So just by bringing it in and letting it breathe, you're going to find that overall, that the whole aesthetic is going to look better. Now, in terms of this, because this is the same size, and there's just a little too much space because of the drop, the descender of the P, this is not connecting as well. So I would recommend maybe putting, T, a little bit smaller fonts, maybe tracked out, which is overall tightness or looseness of the wording. Just up a little bit and see if you can get that to really form a group, form your Gestalt group. I see that you've chosen this gradient. I'm wondering if it's actually complementing or detracting from your logo gradient. Either way, keep in mind that red and green are complementary colors. And so when they're placed next to each other, there's going to be a degree of vibration that takes place. So you may want to consider, going from this dark purple to maybe like a light purple. I see that you're mimicking essentially what you did on the petals of the lotus, but maybe something a little more simpler would work. See if that produces a harmonious result. The net weight, it can go on either side. There definitely seems to be a little bit more negative space on the right side if you want to put it on that side instead. And I see that you got your seals, but again, just a little too tight. So a little bit more spacing, and you have plenty of negative space here, white space, that you can move the nutrition label down. The seals often will be placed lower, like the nutrition label is typically like the first thing that you'll see on the panel. So I would maybe consider placing these here. I'm thinking this is your brand story, so I would definitely change it from filler lor ipsum text to specific text. And then your visual hierarchy, this is just really big. So whenever you see the little reminder to recycle, you know, it's kind of small, you know, similar in size to these seals that you have. Please remember to recycle. It still gets the point across, but this becomes the most dominant feature on this panel, and, you know, kind of competes a little bit with the other elements. So scale that puppy down. I think you're going to find that it's going to work a lot better. So yeah, in terms of this patterning, maybe you could try to make it a little bit more subtle, like the green lines. So just, you know, it's, you know, just a lot of times when you see patterning, it's just very, very subtle. Look at your other example. So this one, the color contrast isn't working. You would need your text to be white in order to be read comfortably. So this one, I would just remove this box. You know, it's not needed. But I'm liking the visual weight. And then something you could also consider is you don't necessarily have to confine everything to the one panel. Certainly these tea leaves could go across to the other panel if you thought it would be more visually appealing. All right, good job. So this one, unfortunately, is hard for me to see. All right, this is the Bermuda tea. So I think the patterning is very dominant. So I would, you know, work on a little bit on the other features, making sure the logo, because the color contrast isn't working here. So if I was to see this on a store shelf, I might just pass by it because nothing's standing out to me. So consider, like, you know, how you can combine your vector imagery with, you know, some photography and how that might work. This pattern is visually pretty, but does it belong here? Is that the correct aesthetic? And then, you know, in terms of the pattern, would it be better if it was scaled down? So yeah, the logo that you've created is a very subtle logo, so you really need to work on how you're going to bumping that color contrast. Okay, that's where I am on that for now. So now we move, I'm not sure what student this is. There's no name. Okay, to Big Easy Cookies. And
I think that's Enrico's.
okay. So I'm still feeling a little bit of a confusion in terms of the stylistic direction. When I look at this logo encompassed with these laurel wreaths, it has a very Greek feeling to me. I'm almost going back to like the Olympics. And so that's the feeling that I'm getting, and I'm not sure that that's the feeling that you're trying to evoke. And then I think Easy Cookies could be placed on the same line. I like that big is big and bold. I don't know that this is the most aesthetically pleasing cookie. So maybe you could, you know, visually work on that. On this particular panel, the color contrast is too dark. So I would definitely work on that. And again, you can certainly have the same color run across. The front panel needs to have the net weight on it. You can move the barcode over to a different panel. That would be some of my recommendations right now. In terms of colors, this purple and gold work really well together because yellow and purple are complementary colors, but by making the gold that really pale yellow, you have the benefit of the complement without blowing out that vibration in the eye, right? So it's not going to vibrate, but it's going to complement each other really well. So this color scheme is good, but the motif isn't working quite as well. So let me know if you have any further questions. All right, and we've done Samantha. Wait, is that your name? No. I'm sorry. Yeah, it is your name. Okay. We've already done Samantha. So that's everybody that has submitted thus far. I did have, if you guys checked FSO, not FSO, I'm sorry, if you checked Slack, yesterday I did post some additional resources. So this one was the free nutrition label generator. So then you would just select, if you want a candy bar, you would select this one, the standard one and the most basic one. And, you can then come in and put all of your own information, and then it will generate it for you. You can download the PDF, and the PDF can be opened in Illustrator. So that might be kind of a helpful tool. And then, of course, I put this free online barcode generator. And you might just want to save this one for other future projects because it has all of the barcodes. So you would obviously scroll down to the UPC barcode, right? But you can see they also have QR codes and, ISBN if you wanted a book, et cetera, et cetera. So you could come over here to the UPC one, and then you could, type in whatever number you wanted, and it would generate the barcode for you. And then,
So I have a question that has nothing to do with any of this right now.
no problem.
For the photo mock-up, using the backgrounds from Adobe Stock, it has the big Adobe Stock watermark across it.
No, you have access, don't you?
For some reason, I don't.
Okay, so when I went to my Adobe Stock, one of the things I had to do in order to get my access is I had to switch from personal. So if yours is on personal, it won't show, but maybe if you switch over to Full Sail University, it'll then show for you.
Let me, because I was doing this I was trying to do the mock-up last night, and all I could get was these, like, big, blocky, where's the darker thing?
So you obviously want to click on your cloud icon, and then under resource links is where you'll see stock.
Yeah, for some reason it's not opening. Hold on. There we go. There it is.
So then you'll click on your, avatar profile. And is it currently on personal?
It is.
So switch it to Full Sail.
There we go.
And voila.
Aha! Thank you.
You're most welcome.
I was like, I know there's got to be a way to do this. That's not there because it was driving me nuts last night. I was like, well, maybe I can just clone tool out the watermark, like just trying to figure out how to get it to work.
Okay. All right. I'm glad I could help you with that. All right. So the last thing is this one website I really like. It's called Mockup World. And I specifically clicked on the food and beverages category. And so maybe there's something here that you guys might find interesting. And these are free mock-ups. I'll go ahead and throw that link in the chat field. And, but yeah, so these are kind of fun. So check them out. There's lots of pages and so forth. But that's all I have for now. So I hope you all have a great day, and we'll be back on tomorrow at noon to review whatever projects were submitted later on today. All right. Bye, everyone.